republic for which it stands.
One nation, under God.
Indivisible.
With liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And we are back once again. It is Sunday afternoon, and I am tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. And joining me today is Magnum.
Welcome.
And you know what? It's cold outside, and you're not wearing your Magnum shirt today.
No, I'm excited for the summertime. I got the
You getting the hoodie? So when are you going to break out the Magnum shorts? That's what we need to know.
Gravity's taking place. I might have to get a little bit longer shorts this year.
Some little basketball shorts or something.
There you go.
Oh, that's great. It's freaking springtime in Idaho. It's like super freaking cold out.
Yeah, for a springtime, I've been through 2 blizzards and multiple windstorms.
Yeah. How many years have you been in Idaho?
This will be year 4.
Year 4. So you're getting used to that, though, right?
Yeah. Well, my first year here was quite the shocker. I had a tornado hit. So I was like, wow, that was great.
And the first day of spring was like a week ago, right?
Yeah.
So, was it Friday? No, Thursday. Was it Thursday? Thursday, I think, was our perfect spring weather. I mean, it was warm, kind of warm. Then it got cold, and then it snowed, and then it hailed, and then it rained, and then it got 50 degrees and clear again, and then we had thunderstorms roll through. I mean, it was just a little bit of absolutely a little bit of everything.
And that was in one day.
That was in one day. I didn't know what to do. One minute I wanted to put in the garden and mow the lawn. The next minute I was like, bring in the firewood. It's getting cold in here.
I was just happy to be at work that day. I can stay inside for a while.
Yeah. So I haven't asked this for quite a while, but I am going to ask you, what have you done lately that has been Second Amendment related?
Oh gosh, where should we start?
Where should we start? That's right.
Let's see.
That's what I like to hear.
I joined up with a beginner shooters class and kind of going over some new basic fundamentals. Spent a lot of time on the range. More time on dry fire than I'd like to admit. I think I actually wore out a hammer spring.
There's nothing wrong with that,
and had to change that out. Kind of come out here and hit the Patriot Defense range as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I have been revisiting some techniques and things from other classes that I've taken, and kind of revisiting those and evaluating them, how they work on my current carry gear. And I think I've fallen into that place now that I've spent so much time training and dry firing that I'm kind of falling into that one gun type.
Yes.
Where this is the only thing I'm going to carry. This is what I'm going to shoot.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move from 80% of my training being from an outside the waistband belt holster, doing the tactical LARPing thing, to really focusing on that concealed carry draw. So that's the vast majority of my time is spent doing right now.
And do you have do you think you got a favorite gun picked out?
I have a favorite type.
Okay, well, yeah. I know you got a type. We all have types. What's your favorite? You got a handful. You got some nice guns.
I do. My primary carry is an EDC X9.
Yeah,
from Wilson Combat.
You've been working on a new one here pretty quick, haven't you?
I'm carrying it today.
Okay.
And it is it's from the EDC X9 line.
Okay.
But Wilson changed their name, so they have something called an Experior line, and so it is the Experior double stack 5-inch. And essentially, it carries the same frame and receiver as the EDCX9 line, with their new track pattern, and then it's kind of a traditional slide and a 5-inch. And I kind of went that route. This one actually has no optic on it. All my carry guns have optics.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curving back to iron sights.
Does this one have an option for optic?
No,
it does not.
No, I can ship it in and have it done.
Are you thinking about that?
No, not for this gun.
Why?
Because
you were Mr. Optic for a while.
I still am Mr. Optic, but I'm dabbling in competition. I want to kind of move towards competition, and so
that's right.
All of my guns have optics, and I didn't have anything with just iron sights.
Gotcha.
Other than that T-sauce that I bring to class.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to compete in limited classes. So I figured, hey, run the irons, run the red dots on the vast majority of my gun. I want to be good at both skills.
Yeah.
but I think I'm just going to keep myself on a singular platform and not worry about all the.
So you
the
thinking
other
you're
stuff.
gonna run you're gonna run irons for competition?
Both. Actually,
You're
I'll
gonna
run in. Going to try for a carry optics division, and then I think they call it a limited division. It basically gives you irons.
So, but you're gonna run optics on your concealed gun?
Oh yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, my EDCX9,
It's
4-inch is my primary carry gun.
nice gun.
This 5-inch, I'm just getting used to carrying and making sure I can still draw with iron sights.
So when you gonna make your first appearance on the competition range?
Hopefully next month.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just making sure it doesn't
It's gonna be shitty.
doesn't
weather.
coincide with.
It's gonna be crappy weather.
I was supposed to go weekend before last, but there was a class that I was helping out with. So.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I really enjoy getting out there and helping folks, new shooters, learn and be safe and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And competition will always be around. And I suppose I get my butt kicked on a regular basis anytime I want. So,
Oh, well, and it's one of those things. It's like I look at my classes, especially like the big permit classes, is like this is a perfect place to shop for guns.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, we tell the students that hey, we're going to go down the table after you're assigned your lane on the firing lane, and you put all your gear and your guns are cleared and they're set on the table. We're going to walk through and check them just to make sure you guys all know how to work and function. Because we do have people that have shot a lot. Then we do have people that are brand new, right? So we just have to double check. That's really my excuse for I want to see what the hell you brought.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. We get some good ones sometimes.
Yeah, we get some good. So we had that revolver.
We did.
Oh, it's beautiful. I don't think she quite knows what she has.
I'm certain she doesn't know what she has, and it's a beautiful gun.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not a wheel gun guy. I usually get them and get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's something after that class, I went hunting to see if I could find one.
Did you dry fire that at all?
I did not.
Oh my God, it was
But
so
I watched her run through the trigger presses, and for a new shooter, there was no stacking, no hesitation.
there was
nice
nothing.
and smooth through it. So.
And she was just killing it with that thing too.
Yeah, she did great.
And it's beautiful. It's a series called what, the 357?
Yeah, it's a Smith & Wesson 686.
It was chambered in 357.
chambered in 357, and they did a kind of a mix between their performance center and their 686 line, not the plus line, but the 686.
Right.
And they called it the 357. We basically had a 3-inch, a 5-inch, and a 7-inch version of that same gun. Beautiful wood grips.
Kind
No
of a
fluting on the cylinder.
Gray. It was kind of gray, like the gray grips, gray wood grips.
Yeah.
And the no fluting on the cylinder is what sold me. That looks cool.
Yeah, that is.
It was
really
just.
beautiful.
It was like it could like blind you in the sun. The thing was just stainless. It was just sharp as a tack, man.
Yeah, and I don't know where she found it or how she found it, but a 3-inch is the hardest one to find.
I think she's had it for quite a while because her dad was telling me a story of. She was gonna get this firearm. He wanted her to get a gun, and she wanted to get a gun, and I think he was gonna pay for it, right? And she was gonna pay for it, and I believe, but I'm assuming that what happened is she bought it, paid for it, and then he like paid her back or whatever because they didn't live in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
And so said that she was in the gun store looking for one, and she like called him up and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna FaceTime you and kind of show you kind of what I like here." And so she held it down and pointed to the revolver, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a good gun. That's Smith & Wesson. That's a good gun." She goes, "That's the one I want, Dad." And I guess he said that she like once she said that, she went and like just moved her phone just a little bit, and it caught the price tag. He's like, "No, stop."
Yeah, easily a $900 to $1,000 gun.
Yeah, I think he said he spent about $900 on it, but she ended up with it, and she's good with it. She might come back for a couple more classes, I hope. As what she said she was looking to do, but she lives quite a way, little ways away, up in I think Haley area. But
Well, I should bring over a slew of other guns to see if she might want to make a trade.
you should. I don't know. I think she's pretty sold on that gun.
I would be. That is definitely a legacy gun where something you can
Yeah.
you can take. I don't think I would carry something like that. In me carrying Wilson Combats, but something like that, I don't necessarily think I would carry because I wouldn't want to lose it.
That thing was so cool, though, man. If you fell into the river, it'd be the first one to the bottom. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
That thing's freaking heavy, man. That thing is freaking heavy. So I got I got some sad news. My holo son died.
Oh,
It
yeah.
died.
yeah.
I called you and what the hell, dude? I was like, okay, it's nice. Finally, I'm going to go out. I'm going to do some little training. I was like set up. I had my ammo. I had, I could kind of go with like a list of drills. I'm like, I get 10 rounds in, bang, 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 and then the thing dies. And I'm like, oh, what happened? Oh, okay. Well, maybe the battery's getting low. So I put in the other battery, right? The new battery that I got with it. It came with 2. Put it in and nothing. And I'm like pushing the button, You're like, go out and try this. And I pushed the button and nothing. And I even went up to the store and bought I said, well, this one's maybe it's old. Went and bought a brand new, fresh one from the store, different brand, and it didn't come on. So I sent in for the return authorization, and I shipped it out on Friday, and I'm so sad. How quick, now you've done this to Holosun before, right? You've sent one back to get worked on or something?
Yeah.
How quick
actually,
was the turnaround on this? They said online it could take up to like 60 days.
The turnaround that I had a 509T that I broke the lens in. It cracked the lens.
Yeah.
They literally got it in. It took 5 days to get there. They got it in.
They just went, look.
And the next day, I had a shipping return label sent to me in an email, letting me know it was on its way. So
Really?
I got it back super fast.
So I did this on Friday. So maybe.
Yeah, you probably see it in about 2 weeks.
Oh God.
They're pretty good at that.
I'm going to lose my motivation. No, my gun looks naked now because when I got that P30 from Langen Tactical, like the plate is like permanently like attached to it, and I'm like, it's not. I mean, I could take it off, but it's like there, and I'm like, oh, that just looks ugly.
Well, it gives you the arguments for having backup sights on your gun.
Yeah, which is what we're going to get into talking about here shortly. But
yeah, they look really goofy. I mean, when I first picked up my first EDCX9,
yeah,
actually it was my second one. And it had the optics plate on it. What a goofy! I was looking at the thing. I'm going, this is the homeliest thing I've ever seen. And then you drop an optic on it. You're like, oh, okay, we're back at home again. So it's all good.
It's that great big flat white spot. It kind of looks like an aircraft carrier.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm like, this is like I feel kind of special ed with this gun.
Yeah, it makes those suppressor height sights stick way out there. Look like little Christmas trees hanging off everything.
So I went outside and I went inside and I was complaining to my wife because that's what I do when bad things happen to me. We all do that, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my God. She's like, don't the iron sights work? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, well, go shoot your gun. I'm like, but I wanted to shoot with the optic. She goes, so what? Now you're gonna pout and just come inside and put the gun away? I said, yep.
Well, you still got the old VP9 with just the red or with just the sights on it. Right?
I do. Oh, I got 2 of them. But
yeah, but I mean, you got one that's got no optic.
Yeah.
And then you got one that's got just the sights.
Oh, I could have used all them too, but
well, I knew this guy that was selling a 508T you should have bought.
Whoa, I had news on a different front. So I've been saving up my money, and I stepped outside the bounds a little bit of what I'm changing my life a little bit, right? If you listen to the podcast, that for any amount of time, you can probably tell that. And made a visit to the tattoo shop yesterday. And I got my first tattoo.
That's always good, but they're addicting. You're going to get another one.
Well, I already have 3 more planned.
I was going to say.
I think I had a plan before I had this one scheduled. So a shout out to Clayton and Ben over at Taste of Ink Tattoo over here. And if you're local there, got a little shop over in a window. Great shop, great atmosphere, great guys. Both me and my wife went over there and got one, and it was a good experience. We were over there all day. Yeah, but it was fun. It was good. Now I got my arm wrapped up in, I feel like a casserole. Got my arm all wrapped up in saran wrap. So we'll see how this goes.
That's got to be an experience because I've never been to a professional tattoo artist. Well, at least with a shop, but I've got like 6 tattoos.
Right.
So,
It's
all those guys went back to prison. I didn't know they were in prison before then.
Oh God. So you got a prison tat outside of prison.
I have 6 prison tats outside of prison.
God. Did anything crazy happen? Like they get infected? I mean, it's turning into the tattoo show.
No, the guy's actually the guy that was actually doing it, and the other fellow were really good at what they do. Unfortunately, they just didn't want to follow the law. They got themselves in trouble.
Well, they weren't good at everything then. They got in trouble and got caught.
That's true. That's true. But the only thing I discovered, and I think we were bantering about it a little bit, was I don't soak up ink really well. My skin type doesn't deal with ink real well, so I had to do everything had to be done in Indian ink.
Oh, wow.
And so it goes in real thick. And I think they got something called like the 7 blades or something, but they had to use a really heavy duty needles. Like there's like 7 needles on the thing to really drive it into the skin and make it stay. Otherwise it would fade out or it would bleed out of me.
Oh,
so all of my stuff is done like that.
It was quite the experience. And, just because we're talking about it, right? It didn't hurt. I mean, it hurt, but not as bad as I didn't know what to expect, right? And except for when I had it done on my forearm, he was doing a part of it was like a tree, but the tree, I swear, under the center of that tree, and I had to work this tree in. You had to work in the trunk and then the branches, and then he had to put all the little details in the tree. And I swear that ran right over a nerve or right over a tendon. And he's hit that. He's going back and forth. And my hand just went like this.
Nice.
It just, the fingers curled up like it couldn't move, and I felt this little like volt of electricity shoot up my arm. And I'm like, oh, he goes, is that a good spot? And I'm like, oh my gosh, get done with the tree already. Cause I'm going to call it done here in a minute. If you don't, he's just like, I'm like, oh, make it go away.
I remember the sensation on my first one, and it was never as bad as I thought, but after like the hour 4,
yeah,
it felt like he was just drilling in the same spot the whole time.
Yeah.
He'd be working down by my elbow, and it still felt like I was up at the cap of my shoulder. I was like, man, are you ever going to get done with this thing?
Yeah, you've been in that spot for an hour, dude.
So that first one was 10 hours in the chair.
Oh, wow.
Sat there for 10 hours on that one, and it wasn't too bad. The one that actually hurt the most is when they got near the bone.
Gotcha.
And that was left forearm for a wing, came around here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that nerve on the outside. Yeah, you feel it all the way in your pinky and up to your elbow. Yeah, it was no fun.
Yeah, I did mine. I think my wife's was a couple hours. I think mine was like 2.5 or 3 or something like that. But it was a good experience. So we'll see. So far, so good. But that's how I spent my Saturday. So
you have guns planned for the next ones?
I don't know. I just my tastes and likes kind of change a little bit, and I
don't know. You just put the HK logo.
I don't know.
Somewhere.
Putting like logos on your body. That's like putting someone's name on there. I just don't know. I don't know.
Are you ever going to get rid of your HKs?
No.
Well, there you go.
Well, what if they leave me? I mean, I could have put Holosun on my arm too, and it just freaking died on me. Like gave up. I don't want to tempt fate here.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose you got a point.
Yeah, I do got a point, man. I do got a point. So I've been staying pretty busy with, I've had some private classes, and I got more coming up, in between storms. But of course, the women's and the men's group, which you're a part of, they are going on. And I had my beginners women's shooting academy. I mean, they've been coming, but this last week was the first night that they got to actually go out and shoot. And they all did really good. I was pretty excited by that. There was what was phenomenal. Okay, and this is going to drive home the whole dry fire and the grip and how you can practice that stuff at your house and how it behooves you to do so. There was this gal. She's never shot before. She went out and she bought a brand new 9mm Shield Plus, one of the new Shields, which they're not that bad of little guns. And we worked on dry fire in the classroom with the class, and she's been dutifully like going home and just practicing dry fire, practicing the grip, practicing all that stuff. And she was nervous when she showed up. She goes, "I'm nervous. We're going to shoot tonight." I'm nervous. I said, "I'll tell you what." I said, "We are going to shoot. Let me explain kind of how this is going to work, and I'll stand right by you. If we let everyone else kind of get rolling, and let me make sure," because she's like the brand new one in the class. If we just make sure that everyone else is going down the right path here, if you give me like a couple minutes, I'll come stand by you and make while you shoot for the first time, right? And she kind of waved me over and she goes, "I think I'm just going to get started by myself." I said, "That's fine," because we're all out here and I'm just kind of running back and forth, Like she left there with a golf ball size hole in the center just decimated the bullseye. Golf ball. She's like, "Am I doing good?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're doing great." I was like, "Have you?" The lady next to her was like, "Did you never shot before? Are you being truthful?" She's like, I've never shot before at all." And I asked her, I said, "Well, this is fantastic. Like, take this home and like show your husband And she's like, man, I've been dry firing every day. I dry fired last night before I came. I dry fired a little bit this afternoon because I knew we were going to shoot today. And she's been practicing. She's been training at home when she can, right? And she's been doing it a day after day after day. And I said, well, how long do you spend doing this? She's like, oh, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes maybe. She goes, it really isn't that long. It's just kind of whenever I think about it. And it paid off for her greatly, right? And if everyone, I've seen that happen a handful of times, go out and dry fire and practice those fundamentals, and it'll pay off when you make it to the range. I was so excited and so happy for her. She was just on top of the freaking world, but she shoots better than a bunch of seasoned shooters that I've seen. I mean, she shoots good. Like really, I was super impressed. And that Shield Plus, that has a not too bad of a trigger on it, really, compared to the old Shields. Yeah.
I have not shot one of those, but what is the saying is, you get your reps in dry fire and you get your confirmation in live fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you gotta do both. But I mean, if you ain't doing nothing, you ain't got nothing to do. It's draw from the holster, shoot the light switch, dry fire the hell out of it and make sure things aren't, you're doing all the proper stuff. And then just confirm it on the range. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, she absolutely just absolutely killed it. It was impressive. I was so proud of her. So it was a good night. And they were here between storms. so not like when you shot. So when the men's group came over to shoot and you were it was freaking cold.
Yeah, and then it died down just as soon as we finished.
I'm putting up targets. I turned around and freaking Darth Vader joined us. James is like full Arctic wear. I love it, man.
Oh yeah. No, every time I come out here, I got the full face mask. Everything's in the bag.
You had your glasses on. I couldn't even see your eyes, dude. I'm like, what's there? Is James underneath all that stuff?
Yeah, got to be prepared, man.
Oh yeah, you do. So I got an update on. Well, I'm going to save the update as a surprise for you. There's a guy in the class that was talking about getting a new firearm.
Awesome.
And he actually went out and ordered one. So. You'll get to see what that is.
He ordered something, huh?
Well, yeah.
It's gonna be a Langdon or a Wilson.
No. It's not that. No, but much better than what he had. So let's talk about this a little bit. So, what are your thoughts on these Gucci Glocks?
Oh dear God!
I mean, I've seen them. The shooter makes a lot of difference, right? But I mean, we've seen some of them choke a bit.
So. In reality,
let everyone know what we're talking about, though.
Shadow Systems builds kind of the Glock from the factory with everything you could possibly want on it. And they are a phenomenally cool looking gun. I've owned one. I don't own it anymore.
Yeah.
And it died on this range. And then I've seen two more come out here.
Oh, it choked on this range.
Yeah, it choked. It choked enough where it was dead for me. I'd never carried it.
Right.
I've seen two more come out here with the same exact issues.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, it's ammo related or whatever, but I took that same ammo and we watched these other folks take the same ammo and apply it in a different firearm that just happened to be working.
Yeah.
And it ran it without a problem. So, and I love making fun of Glocks. I love picking on Glocks. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Well, and I'll just say this too. I'm going to interrupt you for a sec. We make fun of a lot of guns, and if the gun works for you, fantastic. But we all have our opinions.
Yeah, and I'm not of the opinion that a Glock is a bad gun. I think it's a great firearm.
Well, it usually just keeps on kicking.
Yeah, the biggest trick to a Glock is the only thing you need to change out on are the sights. Leave the dang thing alone.
Right.
You don't need a tin covered barrel. You don't need a match grade tight chamber. I mean, the gun is not designed around that, and neither is the magazine to feed it.
You do need a Timney trigger.
Well, we seen the Timney triggers die out here on the other fellow's Glock.
That was a poor installation, I think.
I found one other on that, and I think it's more following the lines of the Gen 5 Timney triggers, or the guns that are set up for the Gen 5, because they have a crossbar that sits in front of there, and your striker actually drags across it. Mm-hmm. So it slows it down, and it does not allow the gun to go into full battery. And that is what we were seeing on that guy's gun, and that was what I seen on another guy in town who was having one.
Okay.
had the same issues. Now he dremeled his and fixed those issues. I had a buddy out here shooting with me last week. We came out and he had a Timney in his, and I found the same thing. He was in battery all the way on his G21, but it wasn't all the way into battery. It wasn't sitting where a Glock should be sitting if it's stock.
Right.
And we verified that with casings. He had blown case heads.
Okay.
So it was like, look, man, massage this thing a little bit. So I'm still of the mind a Glock is a great gun when it comes out of its box.
Right.
Just leave it alone.
Learn how to run it.
Yeah, change the sights and leave it alone.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And there's a lot of guns that way, but
Back to the Gucci Glock.
the Gucci Glocks, man,
Rabbit
no,
Trail, man.
yeah, no, definitely. The Gucci Glocks is, they're taking the Glock perfection and making it, more perfect. And they're dying.
Perfect, or are they just trying to make them look cooler
I think
and charge you way more money,
oh yeah, no doubt,
like $900?
Yeah, or more, or
Yeah.
that's just the slide. You get a Zev slide, or even there is no plastic gun in the world that I would pay over $1,000 for. That's a lot of injection molding.
Well, mine. I'm thinking back to the one I just bought, but it wasn't over that until I had a bunch of stuff done to it. So
Yeah, well, you're paying for the features, but you're not.
Yeah.
It's like right out box. It comes with, some tin coating and that, and like, no,
yeah,
I don't think so.
but yeah, them Gucci Glocks. We have one in about every class now.
Yeah, and they all seem to fail the same way, and they all need new sights, and their zero is wrong for some reason. They're always shooting low left. Can't figure that one out.
Yeah, well, that's a thing that we get all the time, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm not. It's funny, and I get it, right? I mean, so you go out and shoot with your buddies. You go out and shoot by yourself, and you probably do a pretty good job. You come to a class, and honestly, I'm here to help you, right? I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you, right? And I think people get nervous, and they start jerking that trigger, and they start shooting low. If they're right-handed, they shoot low left. And when I walk up and I ask them, hey, just let me watch your trigger press. Let me watch. Oh, I think my red dot's off. I think my sights are off. Like, how many times have you heard that? I hear that in like at least every other class.
I think I've heard it in every class we've had here for the 3 years I've been helping.
Yeah, and I'm like, let's go back to the fundamentals. Let's pay attention to our trigger press. Let's pay attention to all this stuff, because you get them to go, ooh, you get them to jerk, and you can ask them to dry fire, and they'll dry fire perfectly, so they know how to do it. But when they think there's a live round in there, they slap the crap out of that trigger every single time.
I think a lot of them I've seen too is you have there are folks that'll put in a lot of time, so they'll do a lot of dry fire in that, right? Mm-hmm. And then you see their group is low left. They're hitting the same hole.
Oh yeah,
they're hitting low left, but they haven't taken the time to diagnose
to fix their
they'd rather just adjust the sights, and you have a decent press, but there's something going on that's wrong,
right?
And you're pressing it wrong, because if we can take the same gun, apply it to somebody else's hand that is taking the time to do that, and they're drilling where the sights are.
Everyone wants to, and it's much easier. So with like a red dot, right? It's much easier to adjust that red dot than it is to tap a sight.
Yeah,
tap an iron. So everyone wants to immediately adjust that red dot. Oh, I'm just going to adjust it to my poor use of the fundamentals.
Yep. And
we'll get it on. And I'm like, oh, that's not the way to do it. Fix you. I don't say that. I don't say that to them. I'm just, you got to be real tactful about it, right? Because you don't want to piss anyone off. But it's like, it's you. It's not the gun. I think I've said that to someone before. It's you. Let's fix you. Let me prove to you that it's you. And a lot of times, if you have this too, like, well, here, do you want to try shoot it? And you're like, I do, but
yeah, there's that fine line of being
an ass,
being a dick, and you're like, look, man, I don't want to make you look bad right now, but I also don't want to be Mr. Ego going, yeah, I can shoot everything well, because I still drop them.
I have a bad day. We all have bad days. But yeah, so if you're having problems, look to your fundamentals, right? And maybe go talk to someone who might know. I tell everyone, put up a, you can do this. Set up your phone, set it on record, and record yourself shooting. And then go back and rewatch it, but frame by frame, and you'll see what you're doing.
Yeah.
You'll see what you're doing. That's how I used to help my kids learn how to shoot their shotguns at like trap and skeet. They tell me they weren't doing something, and then I'd record them, and then I'd show them frame by frame by frame. Oh, I guess I was doing that. Yeah, you were. So don't always be so quick to blame the gun. Most of your guns, when you get them from the factory, unless you've installed like aftermarket sights yourself or a Red Dot aftermarket yourself, most of this stuff's going to be dead on out of the box.
Yeah.
Very, very, very rarely is it going to be out of whack. I've seen some stuff where people are shooting and that front sight is like way pushed over, like way to the cram to the line. I'm like, how are you even shooting that? But yet they're hitting that bullseye. Because they've customized the gun to their shooting is what they've done.
Yep.
It's I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see.
It makes holster selection a little weird as it's scraping up the tube as it comes out.
Well, the guys that are doing that, though, most of them probably don't have holsters.
That's true.
So I'm looking at my notes here because I'm not good without my notes. I had a few weeks ago, and I missed the podcast last week, as you texted me midweek, said, "Where's the podcasts?"
Yeah, we're missing it, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, stuff happens. But I had a bunch of the women's groups in here dry firing, and as I'm walking through watching them dry fire, I look around and I'm like, oh, great. We got some rimfire, some 22s in here. We got some rimfires in here, and everybody knows what? You're not supposed to dry fire.
Don't dry fire a rimfire.
Don't dry fire a rimfire. And I will say I'll just in the moment I'm in there and I'm like, this is all we're doing tonight is dry firing because it was crappy weather out. I was like, this will be perfect, right? And I'm like, do I let them keep going or do I crush their souls or like, what do I do? Because tonight's the night we're going to have them learn their guns in a sense, right? And so I just, it had a happy ending, but I just went ahead and let him go. And was that wrong of me or right of me? I felt guilty about that for a little while.
Well, I think you get a couple things out of it, right? You get one, you find out if the maid's tale is true, right? And if it does break, then they found out they got a crappy gun. They should have started somewhere better.
Well, yeah, but it's just one of those things. It's like one night should be okay. But it turned out I was good because there are actually at least two rimfires that I know that you can dry fire. So the problem with dry firing rimfires is when, the primer, the little priming compound is in the rim. That's why they call them rimfires. And when the hammer comes forward, it's looking to hit the rim and not the center of the primer, the rim of the primer. And when there's no primer or no round in there, it smacks the beginning, what do they call it? The
bolt face.
The bolt face,
yeah.
And it'll damage it.
Yeah, either divot your firing pin or break it wholly.
So there are two firearms that you can dry fire. I knew of one. One of them is my favorite, the Taurus TX22, which I still need to clean. The Taurus TX22, it actually says that it was made so you can, I don't know what they did different, but you can dry fire that. And then, so that was one of the guns that was being used in that class. And the other one was one I hadn't messed with, and it was the SIG P322. Is that what I call it? SIG. I hate all these freaking nomenclature things with SIG and Glock. I hate that crap.
Hey, at least SIG got their numbering system right.
Yeah, Glock is crazy. But the SIG P322, which is a nice 22, and I'd never seen one come through class before. I think they're relatively new. Are they a relatively new gun? They've been out for a while.
They've been out probably 9 months, almost a year.
Yeah,
now.
I hadn't seen any come through class yet. A lot of Tauruses. Man, I wish I could get a kickback for those because I know I sold a bunch of those. But I was wondering, I was watching this lady dry fire that, and I did check into it. And SIG did it right, too. You can dry fire those without damaging the gun. So that is the other rimfire, the SIG P322. So there you go. My big... And by the way, that the woman who had that, she actually shot that in class the other night. Probably put almost 100 rounds through it. That thing runs like a top. Like, I almost attempted to go and buy one and put it through the same test as I've done my Taurus, and just to see. I'm just curious. Maybe that'll happen. I'm not sure yet. But my big gripe is, why don't they just make all 22 so you can dry fire these things? It's freaking ridiculous. Now, I understand maybe some of like these even the competitions, you're going to want to practice your trigger press. Why don't they just make them so they don't get ruined? If it's possible, do it.
I think we're looking at newer technologies, you know.
I think it's dumb.
I mean, yeah, I agree. But I mean, they've been doing the things the same way the whole time. You know, you have your Woodsman, the Mark series. Who else has another one? Smith and Wesson. Is Smith and Wesson the Woodsman or?
I don't even know, dude.
I don't know. They have a bunch of competition 22s that have been the same forever, and now you've got combat gun
combat style.
Yeah, combat guns now that are developed into trainers. You know, which they should have done from the beginning. I mean, they used to at World War II.
They used to do barrel exchanges.
Did they?
And so, do you remember that?
I remember that, like 1911.
You could buy a whole kit for some Glocks and like switch stuff out. Not just the barrel, but the whole kit. Which I don't know if you could dry fire those or not.
You know, I don't think you could. I think it was just shooting trainers. You know,
it's dumb.
Even was it not the Mini 14, but whatever gun that goes the M1A had a training model that was 22, and you still couldn't dry fire it.
But yeah, it's the technology. I keep cutting you off, dude. But it's the combat style guns, right? You got the SIG now has it. The Taurus has one, and I'd be curious. I mean, Smith and Wesson needs to follow. I mean, someone needs to do something. I mean,
they went opposite. They went 22, but they put a whole lot of powder behind it. So you got that new 5.7.
Yeah,
which is pretty interesting.
But I'd almost think that they need to come up with a decent 22, like the Taurus, and like I think that might be, I won't say the next thing, but I think you're going to start seeing more and more of those pop up, like an actual full size, like you pick it up and it's not some weird looking thing like an old, I don't know, but like the Woodsman and some Target with the long skinny barrel.
I think it actually started with Beretta, because Beretta makes one that is supposed to be one of the most reliable, you know, rimfire 22s. It looks like a 92.
Is it
No, it looks like a 92.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's a trainer model, and then you have, I think Taurus was the next one to do it, and now SIG. So we need
Smith and Wesson now.
Yeah.
And who else do we need?
Glock did the 44, but that thing choked anyways.
That thing choked. That thing is absolutely freaking horrible. That was actually on my list. So I got a question about that. So Glock, just super reliable. Can't keep up with Taurus now?
No, well, I think they took their cues from High Point on that thing.
Actually,
it's got like a pewter slide.
Someone actually told me on, I heard that they were made. It was like, is it Umarex makes the airsoft stuff? Umarex?
Yep.
And that they actually take some of their cues off of the. What?
That would not surprise me a bit.
What?
Well, I mean,
because they're licensed. Umarex licensed, so I mean, they're kind of like this anyway, right?
That's true, but I mean, if we really want to look at it, look at the innovative history of Glock. Right? I mean, they just got their brand spanking new, bestest new Glock 47. Which is a Glock 19X in reverse.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that has been the extent of their.
That's them thinking outside the box.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if you can. I need to know now. Can you dry fire that G44?
That I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I want to look it up.
I don't know if I want to know. I would
keep talking.
Live fire.
You did no dead air. I have to look this up because I need to know now. Because if they made something you can't dry fire, that's bullshit.
Well, I mean, you can. Well, no, you can't. You can't dry fire an Umarex without having, the little plastic BBs in it. So
I dry fire the piss out of mine.
You're not supposed to.
I'm using for something.
But I imagine if they took their cues off of that for a 22, it's probably a non-dry fire model.
G44 can.
And since Glock really hasn't innovated since 1985, I would not expect them to update on being able to dry fire a rimfire.
Well, here's the thing: they probably sold a bunch of them, and now they're going to all of a sudden improve it and call it like Gen 2 G44. I don't know.
No, it can't be a G45. It'll have to be like the G49 because the 8's already taken.
I'm looking here. Is it safe to dry fire?
I don't necessarily know if it's safe to live fire that thing.
Yeah. Well, so what? It just chokes a bunch. Is that the big problem?
As far as I know, I haven't seen enough of them.
So this guy's
understand
dumb.
Anything that's going through it.
Okay, so here we go. Oh, Glock says it actually is fine to dry fire the G44.
Well, I'll be darned.
But it's funny because I love forums. I love going on these forums. I'm not a part of any. Well, I guess I am. But I look, someone says, is it safe to dry fire the Glock 44 without snap caps? And this person thought he'd be big and come. It's not safe to dry fire any rim fire. I'm like, well, you've never heard of the Taurus, and it came out before the G44.
The G44, yeah.
So there you go. Sorry, that was my big.
Now, Taurus is doing some great innovations with their stuff.
They really are, and I rip on them a lot.
Well, they do.
The memes are wonderful.
They do have a deserved history of crap. I mean, you had the OSSs and you had 1911s. I remember I had one time. It was a 1911, and I didn't look at it closely before I bought it because it was like $300, and I bought it.
Yeah.
And I got it home, and I looked at the machining, and the slide serrations front and rear, they were nice and almost smooth on one side of the gun, and then the other side you had slide serrations on. So however it went through, it looked like somebody put it on a planer and just set it through one side. Oh, man. It was like, okay. So I sent that back to Taurus. They fixed it.
Quality control.
Yeah, it was quite terrible. I could not believe that I'd actually bought that. I was stupid enough to buy it without really taking a close look at it. But
yeah, it happens.
It was shiny and black and silver at the same time. So I had to.
You gotta love it. That's that tracked in that. There's a country song about that. It's called Chrome.
Yeah.
So here's another thing that I've had. Actually, we're going to bounce all over the place because there's a logical order to my notes here, but we're not going to follow them because I'm just going to go down the list or I'm going to miss something. So I get a lot of phone calls and asking about classes and asking me about all kinds of stuff. And I welcome the phone calls, but I know this isn't going to stop anything, so I just want to throw it out there, right? I get these phone calls of people that they just don't know. Like they moved here from another state and they'll say, well, I've had this, I've done this when I was a lot younger. That was 30 years ago. I've done this, I've done that. I've got this on my record, or this isn't on my record, or I did this, but I was never charged. And can I come and take a class from you? Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, you can come take a class from me, but I don't know if they're going to allow you to get your permit. These types of questions need to go to law enforcement, right? They need to either go to an attorney or they need to go through the sheriff's department. Ask them. There's a person in every county that deals with handing out or taking care of all the issuing the concealed carry permits. He's gonna know. He's not gonna want to waste his time, and he doesn't want you to waste your time. And they would know. And if you do call them, because a lot of people do call them. And they'll tell them yes or no. Let's say they tell them, well, no, we can't do that. You can't. I'm sorry, you can't. Don't call me and try to explain to me why you think you can. I can't do anything about that. That's not on me.
Well, I think on the advice side of things, call an attorney first, a firearms specialist attorney, because honestly, if you reach out to the law enforcement,
there you go.
Now they got your name, they got your phone number, and they know you're looking for a firearm. And if you're a prohibited person on that list, right?
Yeah.
And maybe, said guy was the one that took the call, and when he pulls you over, he just happens to remember your name.
Your name. There's an APB put out for you.
Yeah, well, it's not even that, but I mean, you have suspicion.
They flagged you.
Yeah, and with an attorney, you have attorney-client privilege.
There's a separation there.
Yeah, so go find a Second Amendment attorney that's in the state that specializes in that.
In Idaho stuff.
Yeah, in Idaho stuff. And then if you are a prohibited person, depending on what your charges were or even committed crimes, you have a way to talk to the attorney about getting your rights restored after a certain amount of time.
Right.
So talk to the attorney. Don't talk to the police.
Yeah.
And, Patriot Defense is probably not going to be able to help you. I mean, I'm sure you want to train anybody that's out there, but if they're a prohibited person, you don't necessarily want to put a gun in their hand.
Yeah, I'm nodding like everyone can see me. We aren't doing this live tonight.
Yeah.
Another, I got an interesting call like it was last year. This guy calls me and he's had some trouble in the past. I don't know where he was at. He called me from Idaho, but he had some trouble in the past, but he wanted to come and he wanted to do some training. But he explained to me, I can't have a firearm. I can't have it. I said, okay, well, I mean, I've been watching videos and you can only do so much with videos. And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of him-hawing. I was like, well, you can't have a firearm, so I can't really have you here. My dogs are barking. I can't really have you here, but... And I was
You have airsoft.
I do have airsoft, but I was thinking about that. But so this is, and I'm not going to go dig through the law for someone. I'm just not. I'm not an attorney. I don't want to tell him something wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? And so he jumped in and he goes, well, what did he say he has? He had a black powder gun. He had something, right? He had some kind of firearm and it fired a projectile. And I mean, I did some checking. For him. I called some people that I know and asked I asked some law enforcement guys. I didn't give him his name, but I said, what is the law? If you've had this and you can't have firearms, what is the law in Idaho? And I get a few mixed signals from, I guess, other people versus law enforcement, which is always going to be mixed signals. They told me that they can't have or deal with anything that even looks like a firearm. Like if it's a black powder, they can't have it. They probably shouldn't even have airsoft. Like they can't whatever. And I have to go off of what they say because they're the people that know what I am doing over here, right? They're the people that sign off on my folks that I send to get concealed carry permits. So when I called this gentleman back, I said, I'm going to step away. I can't do this one. I'm going to step away from it. This is what I'm told. Well, they're wrong. I said, I tell you what, here is the number. Here is the number to the district attorney, right? The attorney guy. Call him and ask what your laws are, or ask what our laws are, and whatever. He goes, well, I'll be calling you back. I said, okay, guess what?
No call back.
I never heard back from him.
Yeah, and then
it's this weird. I've heard numerous things, and I mean, I checked with this one guy I knew is law enforcement with him like 3 or 4 times just to make sure I was understanding it correctly. And the way he said, he's like, no, he can't have that stuff.
Yeah, and that may be a function of state law.
Right. I
do know on the books that like when you buy cap and ball type firearms or they're not even considered a firearm federally at that point. It's like ordering the stuff out of it
could be sent right to you.
Yeah, because it's not legally a firearm.
Legally, and in Idaho, I don't think you're allowed to even have that, though. You can't use that if you don't have your gun rights.
Yeah, and that may very well be the case in Idaho. I honestly haven't looked into that because I don't.
Well, I don't have that problem.
I don't get in trouble, but
yeah.
I honestly don't know what the rules are on that. I do know that in like Washington State, if you're a prohibited person, you can't even have ammunition.
Yeah.
Right. And no components to a firearm. You can't have black powder, even if it's stored, or smokeless powder. If you're just dealing in that, you're a prohibited person. You can't be around it. And it's treated like paraphernalia, essentially.
Well, I'm like getting these people call and they ask me this, and I tell them what I know, because I do have laws that I gotta abide by as well, right? Or can shut my business down. I told this guy on the phone, he started getting a little mad at me. He's like, no, you don't understand that my rights say. I said, sir, this is my livelihood. I'm not going to jeopardize feeding my family or paying my bills because of you.
Yep. Yeah.
And if I don't know, I went and checked with the people who should know. And regardless of what they told me, if that's wrong or it's right, I'm just going to have to go by what they tell me at this point. I mean, honestly, because it could just shut me down. I mean, there's other competitors out there. They found out I was doing something like that. They have no problem shutting me down or getting me in trouble, right?
My question for an individual like that is, what the hell videos are you watching that you're going to be Tactical Timmy with a black powder 6-shooting revolver with a post front sight? There is no semi-automatic black powder gun that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I'm sure there might be someone out there somewhere.
And I'm all for people having their Second Amendment rights, but I mean, there's things that I have to do that I have to fall. I don't have to agree with, but I have to be with them.
Yeah.
Or I get shut down. That's all there is to it.
And it doesn't make it necessarily wrong or right. I mean, I definitely understand the path you're on there. You know, the Second Amendment is Second Amendment. I mean, in my mind, if you committed a crime, it wasn't a capital crime, it didn't cost somebody their life.
Right.
Or at least their life that you did on purpose. I mean, if there's an accidental death, I mean, even in biblical terms, it tells you, go away. if it was an accident, come back when people have cooled off so cooler minds can prevail, essentially. If you did something that took somebody's life on purpose or over property, then you probably shouldn't still be breathing anyways. But I believe in capital punishment too. So
Did you hear that? I think they just signed back in, or I think someone told me, I think they sent me an article in Idaho. Our governor just signed in to allow firing squads.
oh yeah, I did hear about
you
that.
hear about
I did hear about that.
The hell, he's like all over the board. I can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I'd want to sign up to be on a firing squad.
No, but he signed up to allow it. Like that is a thing we can do here now. That's crazy. Cheaper.
Yeah. I wonder what they're going to regulate the firearms to.
I don't know. They probably. I don't know what chokes the most.
What chokes them?
Yeah, that's probably the ones they're going to use.
I don't know. I think you'd want to do the most efficient job possible as quick as possible.
They use
So
rifles.
Put everybody in
They
shotguns.
use rifles for that.
I don't know. 7 yards on 12 gauge. And,
Oh God.
you know.
Anyhow, that's a whole nother podcast. So, but I've got a question I pose to you, and this is going to be an interesting one because I see the pros and the cons of each. But I ran my HK or my VP9, HK VP9, with my I cheaped out on it. I put the Holo Sun Red Dot on it, and I didn't get any suppressor high sights. So essentially, I'm running around with a gun that just had a red dot on it, no sights. I mean, the sights were there, but they couldn't be used. And so I got used to shooting that for a handful of years. And then I grabbed this P, and I didn't care. Just red dot was fine. Then I got this P30, and it came with fancy stuff on it. Well, they're crappy sights, but it came with suppressor height sights, and I got it so I could mount my red dot on there. So now I've got a red dot, plus I got my irons that I can see, which disgust me because they get in the damn way. I hate seeing them in there. Absolutely cannot stand seeing those iron sights in there. And I know the benefit of having backup sights. I understand all that. I want to just knock the sight out. I just want to get rid of the front sight. I don't know that I want it there. It bothers me when I use my red dot, and I know if something goes down, I'm gonna regret it. I get that, but if it's a self-defense situation, I know they're not all the same. But there's a good chance they're going to be close enough that it's going to be a point shooting thing anyway. Does that make sense?
It does.
I mean, it's annoying.
There's actually a lot of popular firearms out there. Canics, they have the red dot plate where it completely removes the rear sight. Even Wilson does their EDCX 9S with its optic mounting plate that deletes the rear sight completely because there's not enough space on the gun to put it.
Back in the day when red dots were the thing, and even before that, there was a whole warrior talk. There was a whole movement before they were even putting red dots on them. People were just grinding off their front sights on their Glocks.
Yeah.
It was all point shoot, close quarters stuff.
So do you remember Kimber actually came out with a model that had nothing but a channel through the top of the slide?
Well, let's think about this. So what are these? What are they called? Who makes them? God, is it Sig make them? Who makes those sights that are down in the slide?
Oh, the MetPro god awful things. Yeah.
What are they called? Someone has them. Is it
garbage? They're called garbage.
Yeah, but is it Sig? Is it Sig that has them?
I think.
No, it's called the SES. Is something else. It's called the. God dang it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. They're actually made by MetPro Light.
It's the same damn thing.
Yeah, and they're god awful.
Okay, so let's go back to. Sorry.
But I mean, even when you read the literature on them, they tell you, it's pie plate accuracy at 7 yards. So
isn't that what I want? No, I know the answer to that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, if you don't have sights, so there's pros and cons to it, right? So if you everybody likes mounting their red dot super low now, right? So you're gonna run suppressor height sights, and then they run it co-witness. Co-witness, your sights are right up in the middle of that red dot window, and you get a large obstructed view. Now, if you're running black on black, again, you're supposed to be target focused. And that dot is nothing more than the rear sight of the gun. So the target is the front sight. The dot is the rear sight. You're lined up and you're punching through.
But I'm still using two sights. So I don't mean to interrupt you again.
No.
But how... You're like, shut up, Todd. But so, yeah. But why are red dots quicker? The red dots are quicker because you don't have all these planes and these things you're trying to freaking line up.
That's true. That's true. But the backup sight, and I'm a believer in having backup sights on my carry guns.
I'm not sure I am.
On my end of war gun.
I'm firing up the Makita ankle grinder. We're going to get rid of this thing.
But I do believe it's important where the placement of those is. And being that I have both guns, I have where the rear sight is behind the sight, and then I have my customs where the rear sight is in front of the optic.
Right.
That makes a world of difference. Looking through that window, you want that nice big clear window because it helps see things.
Yeah.
Right. And you're going to pick it up faster, or you get a sight with a larger window now. Mm-hmm. Enter the SRO, and now the new 507 comp from HoloSun has got a freaking flat screen TV on the front of it now, where you're getting a larger sight picture, or even the deck height is just high enough where you're getting like a lower 1/5 or a lower 1/3 for your backup sight. So you're primarily still looking through the glass, right? Ultimately, I say if you're not going to run backup sights, then you want the most reliable red dot that you can purchase, and the one that's proven, right?
Mine just broke.
So an RMR Type 2.
Good
or,
one. Yeah, no.
You know, somewhere along that line.
It's be cheaper to buy suppressor height sights on top of the red.
That's true. That's true. But I mean, if you're going to depend on the only thing on there, maybe an aim point acro, give it a couple more months to see how they work out with the new, I think they call them the P2.
Right.
That might be a solid option where you got the tube sight on there. And like you said, if the dot goes down, there's a technique called guillotining.
Yeah.
Which it works just fine. It's, 7 to 10 yards. You corner in the shoulders, and you got a box full of chest. So
because you got bullseye accuracy, you got combat accuracy. You're looking for center mass. I mean,
true. Aim small, miss small.
Well, sure.
And at
but
high
if you
speed,
have
your
to
small
do
is going to
it-
get a lot bigger. So
Yeah, but I don't know. Are you gonna you're just gonna shake your head when if you show up, but I've knocked that front side out, aren't you?
no.
Now,
Now, if you knock it off the Langdon, then we might have to talk about that one.
I'm taking it off the Langdon.
You spent the extra money on it, though.
I don't care. I'm not gonna file. I'll knock it off and keep it for a later date. I don't know. I just annoys the crap out of me.
Is it the front sight or the rear sight
The
that
front
bothers you
side,
most?
because I can barely see the rear sight.
Barely see the rear through the optic?
Well, you can, but it's so low.
Is it?
Yeah, it's that front sight is just annoying as hell to me. It just because I trained myself for so long not having anything, and I think that was part of my problem, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I got used to not seeing anything there.
Yeah.
To where what I do is I'd look at I'd focus on the target, and you press the gun out, and you just press that screen right up in front of it, and the red dot's there, and you're good to go. Now when I do it, I got this thing that looks like a freaking thumb. I'm like, why am I even using a freaking red dot at this point? Because I don't know. I think I just got used to it the other way, and I didn't think anything about it till I came out.
There's nothing wrong with it. Shoot what you shoot and enjoy it that way.
I'll just make sure I carry my my Kel-Tec P3 AT as a backup.
Or throw one of those VP9s in there just in case.
God, my
Same
pants
magazines,
My pants will be falling off before we know it. So I know if anyone's listening to that, they're just shaking their head going, this guy that does this podcast, he's just dumb. But I like what I like. And I don't like what I don't like.
I would just say put something super reliable on there.
The whole son that just died when I get my replacement.
Well,
back.
you had a 507?
Yeah.
One of the older ones. So,
Yeah.
Upgrade time.
We'll see.
508s, 509. Oh, the EPS, same foot, or no, it's not the same footprint.
Maybe I'll get back this one because I'm assuming I'm getting it back.
You know what? That'll actually solve your problem. Go for the EPS, the standard to full size, because it comes with a mounting plate that fits your RMR, so it fits over the top. Your EPS will mount to it, which makes the deck height a little bit higher, and you're only going to see the little tip of that front sight in there.
So it's gonna be pointless anyway.
Yeah,
So I'll be stupid. I just won't look stupid.
that's true.
Nice. I like it. But I'll still be stupid, and we all know that I'm just dumb anyway. So that's cool. What were we going to talk about? Oh, you wanted to talk about lights.
Oh yeah. So there's always a sore subject on the And I was talking to this with another
Sore subject.
gentleman that was we were talking about concealed carry the other day, and folks carrying lights on concealed carry handguns.
I do not like them.
I'm not a huge fan. I suppose I could understand the point, but it would again be situational.
When my hero does not carry a light on his gun, which would be Magnum.
Okay.
I don't have to carry one on mine. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, no doubt. I was thinking you're talking about the
Who am I talking about, James?
Bigfoot Pincus,
Yeah, there you go.
the gun that shall never produce.
No, they're selling the shit out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's mass production.
I have not seen it anywhere. I'll have to check it out.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, they started up as a new gun company, so they've been selling them since SHOT Show.
I'll be darned. I have to look at
Thought
it.
about buying one
Why?
just because.
I suppose.
I'll trade it to you for your red dot.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyhow.
You have to prove everybody wrong that it actually showed up.
Yeah. So let's talk about lights. So my fault.
Yeah, and it's funny that folks will put lights on there, and then they put the biggest light they can.
Oh my gosh.
Or the smallest light they can. Me personally, I see it for certain situations, right? Maybe a tactical situation. Maybe you're a law enforcement or you're Secret Service or something where you're going to have to search around with your firearm. I'm not going to search around and point my gun at things with a flashlight on it.
Well, just here, look at me. I'm over here.
Yeah, and the idea is if I have to pull my firearm or a person, I'm just a civilian. If I haven't identified the threat before I pulled my gun out and put a light on it, I'm probably going to go to jail anyways.
Yeah.
Because when you're going to get nailed for brandishing, they got a set of keys in their hand or something. Yeah, great, you didn't shoot them, but now you're on video pulling your gun, shining a light on them, and going, "Oops, now I'm going to hell."
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I see purpose for it. Tactical training, like I love the tactical LARP, right?
Oh, sure.
So I've got holsters set up for that. If I were doing tactical LARPing from concealed carry, yeah, you know what? I might throw a light on there and do it that way. But if I'm going to be in my home, you can have rifles for home defense. I mean, that's everybody's cup
Sure.
of cheese, right?
Uh-huh.
Ultimately, I think a handgun is probably the best for home defense when you have children.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to manipulate everything one hand. And I certainly don't want to be running our house pointing, a 45 caliber handgun or any handgun and potentially running, muzzling one of my kids.
Right.
Follow rule number 2. Don't point anything you don't want to kill or destroy.
Yeah.
So why am I going to put a flashlight on something like that? I'd rather have one in my hand, or maybe both, right? So maybe you have a bedside gun with the flashlight on it, holster it up or carry it low, and then search with your handheld flashlight, and if you absolutely must have 2 flashlights shining on the bad guy while you shoot him, personally, I'd rather just be shooting them than trying to figure out how to turn the light on.
Yeah.
My trigger finger is much, much faster than, or better yet, I know my own house. I can flip a light switch on.
Yeah.
It makes more sense.
So do you think that, what do you, and I agree with you. I don't do a light. I never have. And everyone does what they want to do. I just think it's something else hanging off your gun that you just have to, I don't know. I think they're annoying.
I would be a complainer about weight, but I carry full-size steel guns.
Well, yeah,
So-
but then you add more weight to it.
That's true. And I guess under recoil control, it is kind of nice when you're out on the range and you're able to get real quick follow-up shots. But then again, if you're following proper grip technique, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's really not going to matter that much.
When people aren't out like tactical LARPing, or you're not doing it for that reason, right? I know there's a lot of people that do it. They like to kit up, and that's fine. You do you. But when a concealed carry guy does it, do you think he's doing it to actually use a light, or because it's some cool gadget just to hang off his gun?
I think it is a gadget thing, and being one of the guilty guys.
Well, sure. And I'm not picking on anyone. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah, no. I think as a firearms person, especially a gun culture type guy, we all go through this phase of, you start with whatever handgun you can afford.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest thing since sliced cheese, and you buy it because, it always works. And then you start moving through the kit phase. So you get the best kit and you get this and that. And then eventually you work your way into a training phase. You balls up enough, you got the best kit. So you go out and you shoot, and then there's somebody smoking you with like a piece of crap Umarex,
G44.
Yeah, G44 on the range, and they're shooting dime-sized group, and you got the newest, coolest Gucci Glock or Wilson Combat, and you can't hit the broadside of a barn, so you start working into the training phase, and when you hit that training phase, you start decoupling from all the kit, and it starts coming back around to practicality of really, what do I need? And now I'm actually carrying this gun every day. Do I want, 5 pounds of crap?
And that whatever I have, I mean, can I use it? Can I use it efficiently? Which means once you get better at it, you probably feel like you don't need a lot of this extra garbage with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's fun to buy.
Tactics beat everything. I mean, a lot of people forget about that, is it's tactics.
Well, it's the old saying, right? Beware of the man with one gun, because he probably knows how to use it.
Yeah.
And you can, as much as we pick on guns, as much as I pick, well, I'll say me, as I repost these memes every single freaking day about different guns, 1911s, Tauruses, Glocks, high points, whatever, right? There are guns that are better than others, but use what you can afford, use what you got, and just learn to use it, because I guarantee you can go look at all the uses of firearms out there, and you could probably find one of these guns has saved someone's life at one point. Somewhere along, has been used. I mean, people give the Kel-Tec, PF9, George Zimmerman. I mean, you can go look. There's all different kinds of firearms that have been used to do what? To save people's lives and in defensive uses. And like I said, you can buy better guns than other guns, but they work. They go bang typically. And it is what it is, right? You learn to use what you have, and it's the whole light thing. I personally agree with you. I'll never have one on any of my guns. I don't care. I am pissed when I buy a gun that doesn't have an actual legit Picatinny rail on it, because I think that's one of those things they should all come with. And when you get them and they don't have that, that's annoying to me. I mean, it's because there's all things guns should have. I may not put a light on it, but I want the damn option, and I want a place to mount my Mantis X if I want to use it.
Yeah, I could see that. It would definitely. There are certain guns that I have that I don't want a light rail on, but again, that is just nostalgia for me.
Right.
And I'm going to run a handheld light anyway. And then there are other guns that, like you said, it's the option. I want to be able to throw a light on there if I need to. Yeah. And if it's my concealed carry gun, it's gonna have the ability to throw a light on it in case I need to throw a light on it. Is that light in my bag? Yeah, that light's in my bag. But generally, it's in my hand, unless I have to put it on the gun so I can use my hand.
I don't need a light. I just carry a flashbang in my back pocket.
That'd be good. So, there's actually something I wanted to throw in here. It was funny. My kids and I were talking on the way home from church today.
Oh, great.
And we were talking
about tactical LARPing?
Almost, quite honestly. Think about the story of David and Goliath. Everybody talks about David's triumph over Goliath, right? So Goliath was a huge guy, killed men by the hundreds, armored up dude. And he was beaten by a much smaller man, right? But everybody forgets about how did David beat Goliath? He beat him with a handgun.
Of the time.
He beat him with a handgun of the time. That was his deal. And now we know the finishing blow was done with Goliath's sword. He severed Goliath's head with the sword.
But he equalized the playing field.
Yeah. So, and it was just funny that my kids had brought that up when we were on the way home. And he goes, well, how did he kill him? I was like, well, he shot him with a handgun, essentially. Yeah. He may have been dead before he cut his head off, but I just thought it's
the weapon of the day.
That was crazy.
There's always been an equalizer out there.
Yeah. And then God gave us John Moses Browning.
And then we all had to learn how to tap rack bang.
That's right.
So I'll tell you what, man, it's been great getting you back in here on the podcast again. We've kind of hit our time, well, I don't say time limit and go as long as we want, but I got to do chores still. And it's windy out there.
I'm hoping that's not hail or snow out there.
It's really windy. But hey, I would appreciate you stopping by. And if anyone's got any questions or comments for the podcast, you can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. Share it on your social media. Share it with your family, your friends. That would be much appreciated. And I'm going to try to be back next weekend, I hope. James looks at me like shaking his head like, yes, better be.
Yeah, between you and the Forgotten American, you guys are my only entertainment on the road.
Oh, man. Okay. I'll make sure I get one out then. Okay, well, everyone have a great week. Bye.